Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to another episode.
Welcome back to another episode of, I'm going to say the Lana Hustle, but you know what? Something in my heart is telling me to change this name because when I made this name, for me, it was all about hustling and bustling. And not that I'm not about that anymore, but I'm just touching on another chapter in my life. And I feel like this podcast is evolving just like I asked for. Again, like a couple weeks ago, or I would say like 5-6 weeks ago, I was having a team meeting and I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't know what it is. Like, what should my podcast like literally be about? They're like, oh, it could be about like everything, but I don't know. Just something wasn't like touching my heart. So I think that God made his way onto this podcast. And I just really, truly want it to be 90% about him and our walk in faith. And I stand very strong in that. So while I might have some guests occasionally, it's mainly going to be me and you.
She's going to kick me out for the guests. That's
But
fine.
don't take it personal.
I don't take
Come
it
on.
personal.
We got to have some
That's
girls
fine.
on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, here's my co-host Ignacio.
I hope you impact the girls that come here, you know.
What do you mean I hope? I do. We
no,
do.
I'm saying, like,
I can't hear you.
I'm saying, like,
Speak louder.
I hope you impact them and, like, you share with them your walk in faith.
Yeah,
That's all that I'm saying.
that gives me purpose. A lot of purpose to show up even when I don't feel like it, because let me tell you, early in the morning, people start, personally, just one person starts to just attack me and attack.
Today?
Yeah.
Who? Oh. Again this morning?
Sí, todavía.
Wow.
And it's really exhausting.
That's a
but
problem.
trust me, I know that I don't only have to rely on my strength and my patience, because I'm human, and like obviously our first reaction is just to like want to pop off, but with God's
Especially.
yeah, especially me, right? But you know, no, I've literally been changing. And yesterday, I think we went through a circumstance where I think I would have stayed longer. I think I would have stayed mad longer than was necessary. It didn't really get me as heated as it would in the past, and stop laughing because that's getting me mad. I'm just kidding.
No, I laugh because of the misunderstanding that we had.
No, it's
That's
not.
all.
But it's not a misunderstanding. It was the way that you said it. Whether it wasn't literally what I thought it was, but it was still like.
I get it. I get you, but it was like just a misunderstanding.
I understand it was a misunderstanding, but it still wasn't right.
Okay.
But that's a topic for another day. And look, when people ask us, like, you know, how do you guys go through your differences? And we just talk.
Oh, we argue. Like,
Yeah, we
got
argue.
along. We argue way less disrespectful
Yeah, we
than
argue,
what we used to.
and it
argue.
lasts a lot shorter. So
Yeah, that's because of you. Because for me, fights always last short time. Like, you are the one that drags them. Like, just at the very beginning when we were dating, like, fights would last like weeks, and I was like, holy shit, this is for real. Like, this long is going to last. Like, what do I have to do? And it's funny. I'm going to share this because it's part of the transformation. It's like, our fights would last weeks, and in those weeks I would like think about ways of like, okay, how can I make her forgive me, you know? And I would buy her flowers, I would buy her presents, and slowly those things went away, you know? And now it's like learning that if you are truly repenting for the mistake, or sometimes even you are not even on the wrong, the other person just misunderstood you and they got mad about it or whatever, like, you getting into this habit of like pleasing the other person, like trying to like, oh, here is something nice for you to forgive me, stuff like that, it kinds of prove you guilty, you know, and
True.
that's something that I recognized before getting into faith, but now that I am walking this path of faith, I realize that, and I don't want to sound like godly or anything, because as I always said, I'm sinful as F, but it's like you start realizing that the material shit doesn't fucking matter, you know, and not that you don't want a nice life, an abundant life, but it's in a different way
Yeah.
that you care
I always
about
think
that.
about like when I am lying on my deathbed, are those things gonna matter to me? Absolutely not.
But it's still like that's the funny thing, is like, even though we think like that, like the Holy Spirit makes us realize that our flesh still wants those things, you know, and it's like, I still want the new phone, I still want the new car, I still want these new
I
things.
know.
And that's the battle that we have to kind of like get to level and understand, that if our relationship with God is not on a good vase, everything else will just push us towards the devil and cherish other things, you know. I wanted to talk in this podcast today about our Bible study that we had the other day,
Okay.
and to see how what did your audience said about it, what did you feel about it, are we going to do it again?
We can do a recap of it.
Those are all the questions that I want to ask you.
Well, why don't you tell them first, like what we spoke about in the
Okay.
Bible study?
So for those that didn't tune in into the Bible study,
How dare you know?
no, Alana reached out to me saying like, hey, we should do a Bible study. And honestly, at the beginning, I was like,
scared.
at the beginning, I was like, who am I to have a Bible study? Like, I'm new to this whole thing, and I don't feel righteous to do this. But at the same time, I had like these little boys inside of me that it was like, look, sharing your path, especially, and our pastor said this, is like, the best people to bring other people close to faith are new believers, because when you're new, you have the freshly baked testament of how Jesus and faith change your life. So I got that into my head when you suggested that we do this, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then the day came around, and I was like, holy fuck, it's here. Like, what are we going to talk about? And then I remember a verse. Can I read it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I remember this verse from Psalms. Let me open my Bible. Psalms. Psalms 40.
Did you go through any of the comments too for the end?
Not on the Bible study.
No, I'm saying like on the YouTube from last episode. Or you forgot that part too.
No, I did, but they were all happy birthday. Most
Aw,
of them
happy
were happy
birthday.
birthday, so I appreciate everybody that wished me happy birthday. But we share this Psalm 40, verse 1 through the end, okay? And I'm not going to, do you want me to read it all or not?
How long is it?
I don't know how long it is, but
Read a verse,
okay.
not the chapter.
So the verse, this is a psalm that David wrote, okay? And it's dedicated for when we are in times of hopelessness and we feel that we are in this dark space that there's no way that we're going to get out. And the reason I chose these psalms is because it literally talked to me when I first picked up the Bible. And the verse says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard me cry. He also brought me up out of a horrible pit, out of the dirty clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my steps. He has put a new song in my mouth, praise to our God. Many will see it and fear, and will trust in the Lord. Blessed is the man who makes the Lord his trust and does not respect the proud, nor such a turn aside to lies. It goes on and on. Like, I don't want to take a lot of time talking about, like, it sounds bad to say I don't want to take a lot of time because there's always time for the word of God, but I just want to dive into these, that it's like, this was what I told her and I want to share because, as I said, it spoke to me, and to see how the audience was reacting to it.
Oh yeah, I did not expect
Yeah.
that at all. I didn't expect over 100 comments after the live was posted. I did not expect that at all. But we touched hearts.
And it's also like...
And I think that there's also power in vulnerability. And that's what we got a lot of. Like, thank you so much for being vulnerable, because let me tell you, as soon as I started that live, I'm like, what am I doing on here? Like, I know that we're going to read the Bible and we're going to do a study, but who am I? Again, that imposter syndrome creeps in and tells you.
I think that it's the enemy, like the devil, more than an imposter syndrome. Like, to me, I was going to say, like, it's so funny that I read that verse because look how we started the podcast talking about like all the things that don't matter, and that the true meaning of life is finding God. That's the biggest treasure. And then I read this verse, which brings me back to like, we really think, when we are not walking on faith, that we really think that we can control things, that we can overcome things. That if you hear somebody that has no faith talk about their success, they will talk about how much they grind, how many hours, how many sleepless hours they put in. And that was me. Like, I share this story with you when we were dating, like, oh yeah, I used to work out 3 times a day. I used to be perfect with my food. I used to do this. All was me. Me. I did this. But when you realize that you didn't do shit, like, the man upstairs is the one guiding you and allowing you to do those things. And I do believe that people that don't find faith, don't find Christ, and they are successful, okay? Eventually, when they hit like a struggle, that's God knocking on the door saying like, hey, remember who allowed you to be where you are. And then they don't hear that, they keep going, and then they start asking themselves like, oh my God, why is everything crumbling? Why is everything going south? And again, like, it might not go south money-wise, like they might still be wealthy, but they might go south like mentally, family-wise. They might not be able to see their kids. Their kids might not want anything to do with them. Like, there's so many ways that are way more painful than just going through financial struggles, that you don't realize the importance of those things until you find faith. And I think that once you find faith, all things starts getting, they start accommodating themselves slowly.
And what about for the people who don't feel worthy of him? Because I know that some people may be watching and they can be listening and they can look at us and be like, oh my God, they're so lucky, they have a great relationship. But just know that, like, we had to hit rock bottom to get to where we are now. And he had to, like, really, I feel like, bring us down to realize, like, all the problems that you think you guys are having is not even things to worry about. So I feel like he kind of made us wake up.
I still don't feel worthy. Like, let's go through the truth is like, I still don't feel worthy. And this is not something from one day to the other. Like, this has been like years. Like, this goes back to my when I was 18, 19. And now that I am getting closer to God, I can see it. The pain I inflicted on other people, the the pridefulness of my soul, the the places I went seeking for answers that they were right there. I just couldn't see or couldn't believe. Like I talk about these on a previous podcast, like why we fell into the law of attraction, why we fell into meditation, why we fell into spirituality, why we fell into drugs, why we fell into like mushrooms, why we fell into all these things. That's our soul searching. That's our soul like wanting us to connect with God, not with all these other things that are earthly, right? And I went through all of that, and I promise you, like nothing could
Fill your void.
fill my void. Thank you. And I think that happened to you too. Like the only difference is that when we are busy on our day to day, we feel that our void is full. Like we feel like, oh, I'm building a business, my business is booming, and by coincidence, at the same time that my business is moving, I'm doing the law of attraction. I'm writing on my journal every day. I'm doing all these things. I'm doing mushrooms. I'm talking to the plants and all this stuff. If those things happen at the same time, you think that, yeah, I'm full. I'm living a purposeful life. But I do believe, and again, this is my experience, so I am not the owner of the truth. I'm just talking based on my experience that even after going through all of that, I still felt unworthy. I still felt that I didn't have a purpose in my life. And now that I find Christ, I think that slowly he's kind of telling me what my purpose is. And I'm going to share something that I'm being very vulnerable to share this, but this is my faith, so I have to share it. And this happened over the weekend. I don't know if you want to say something before I share this story.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so
I wonder what you're gonna say.
I have one of my worst injuries while playing rugby was that I tore my plantar fasciitis of my foot. And
How do you tear that?
rugby, you push, so when you're pushing all the strength.
I don't want to.
So I felt like somebody shot me and I couldn't walk. I was on crutches for like 6-7 weeks. So after I retired and I healed from my injury, I was in constant pain, like literally till Saturday. I would always complain to Alana one day of the week at least, oh my God, I can't walk. I would be sitting down watching TV without weight on my feet, and then I would stand up and I would be like limping and stuff like that.
I didn't know it was that bad. You just told me, oh, my foot hurts. Oh,
So
okay.
we went to have a massage this Saturday, and the lady remembered me because we were there before, and she remembered about how painful my feet were, and she started working on the one that I haven't had injury, which surprisingly it was pretty sore. And then I was distracted with my phone and different things like that. But then when the pain really hit, that she was going hard, I couldn't be on my phone anymore. So I put my phone down and I was like, okay, I did not even think. I was like putting my eyes closed, and all I said was, by the power of the Holy Spirit, make my feet heal. And I repeat that 3 times. And when it was the time for her to go to my injured foot, she started massaging my feet, and she couldn't feel anything, and I couldn't feel anything either. It was like,
She was like, what happened? What
yeah,
happened?
she was like literally like, she's like, this is not the feet that was injured. Like, yeah, that was the feet that was injured, and she was going at it and she was going hard, and I was like, I don't feel anything. Like literally, it's gone. And I started getting all excited. Like I didn't know if to believe or not believe, but I was like, holy cow, like this is really the power of faith. And then I said it again for my other foot, because my other foot, she was going at it and it was hard. So she told me like, look, I'm going to go to the other feet because in this feet you don't have anything. I was like, cool. And I was getting ready for the pain again because it was painful. And then she go and she's like, what did you do? And she asked me again, what did you do? And I said to her, I just pray. And she started laughing. She's from China. We know that in China there's no faith, unfortunately. But I told her, like, you should try it too. Like, this is surreal. And then I got even more courage. And I also have pain in my legs when I'm sitting down for 15 minutes. My legs start getting numb. Like driving from my house to the church is painful.
Really?
And I sat there and I closed my eyes again and I said, for the power of the Holy Spirit, my legs are healed. And my legs were healed. Like I don't feel the pain no more. We drove the whole weekend. I was not uncomfortable driving. And I just, like, it's just the power of faith, I don't believe that I have magical powers. I don't believe it was me. I just believe that it was a testament of what faith can do when we believe. And there's a passage on the Bible on Matthew, I think it's Matthew 17, that Jesus is talking to the apostles because Jesus goes away and then people from the town bring a man that was possessed and they give it to the apostles, and the apostles could not cast the demon out. And so when Jesus comes back, the people are telling Jesus like, oh, we brought this man to your apostles and they could not do what you do. Like they could not cast the spirit, kind of doubting Jesus, like, hey, these are your students. We're like, why they can't cast demons as you? So then Jesus comes, he casts the demon out, and then he looks at his apostles and tells them, at his disciples, and tells them, if you would have faith as little as a mustard seed, you would be able to tell this mountain to move from here to there, and the mountain will move. And that's literally the verse that came to me when all this happened. And I can't tell you how much joy I feel that I'm sharing this with you, but more importantly, I'm sharing this on the podcast because I have to keep the word to God in my prayers, that I will not be ashamed of sharing his work on me. And this is literally what he's doing for me, So
That I also want to share something too, and I shared this with you. So again, last week he told me like, tell me what you need from me. Tell me what you need from me. I'm here for you. So he told me, he was like, tell me what you need from me. And I have a hard time until recently asking people what I need from them because I can just do everything on my own.
you believe so?
I'm speaking.
Oh, that was your thought?
Yes,
Okay,
my
okay.
thought, of course. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I think it's time for me to just ask, right? Instead of just be grateful, I can actually ask and tell him and lay all my burdens on him. And so the next day, I had a lash training. And I take my lash trainings very seriously because, like, these girls are flying in from different states. And I need to be at my best so that I can give these girls an opportunity to strive, right, in this lash industry. So I asked him for energy, and I also asked him, I had this pain in my back, and it was kind of like around my lung area, so it was hard for me to breathe. I think it was just like a very hard cramp. And I'm like, I'm driving, I'm like, oh my God, like, this sucks. I'm thinking to myself, like, how am I going to make it through? And then I just stopped myself, and I'm like, you know what? I remember what he told me yesterday, and I spoke out loud. And I was like, I demand for this pain to be gone in your name, Jesus, right? And I kid you not even like 30 seconds later, it was gone. And I just stayed quiet, like the whole car ride to work, seeing if it would come back. Right?
That's me now, because the pain is gone. The pain is completely gone. So I woke up on Sunday and I was like getting out of bed, putting my
You're
feet
like
on the floor,
expecting.
and I was like, okay, now the pain is going to be there. And I stood up and the pain was not there. And I did it again this morning. I put my feet on the floor and I was like, okay, now the pain is going to be there, and the pain is not there. So it's like,
ask what you need. Say it out loud.
but have faith.
Yes,
I think
have
that like
faith.
the most important
And just
thing,
like let go. Like just literally drop your arms. And even if you feel like you sound like silly or you stutter, because I still stutter, I still have trouble, just like letting go and
But-
asking. And that's okay.
see, why do we stutter, or why do we feel shame or scared about praising and sharing this type of stories? Is because we are programmed in our growing up, like we are programmed in our culture that these things are bad, or that people are going to think that you're crazy, but here's the thing with what I was saying before. Why am I going to stay quiet when other people out there are talking about all these things that they are nonsense? They don't, I confidently say that they're nonsense because I went through them. I haven't met anybody other than the person preaching these different tools, okay, living a fulfilled life. All the people that follow them, all the people that paid for the courses, that paid for all these things, they are chasing that, what this guru has to offer. But the one truly living the life that everybody wants is the guru who is getting the compensated for sharing something that these other people cannot attain. And faith is free. So why am I not going to share this with the audience if it's free and it's the thing that sets the world on the right direction? And these are my beliefs, right? So I'm not talking from like, these are just my beliefs. I think that the moment we took God out of society, society starts declining. And the Bible talks about this. The Bible talks about many cities, many kingdoms, that the moment the population took the eyes from God and they started praising idols, they started praising material things, they started praising themselves, society went to shit. And it was only when a leader from the town came up and put God first, then society was restored. And to me, it's not coincidence that the things that are happening in our world are taking us to a place where I think that we are all tired. We all want peace. I don't actually know a single person that wants evil to succeed. But at the same time, it's like, what are we doing to contribute to beat evil, right? We were watching this show.
But there are bad people out there. I'm just
Of
saying.
course, I agree. But we were watching this show that the interviewer person was like, do you think that you're a good person? Do you remember this part of the show? We were both kind of falling asleep. But the interviewer was going around asking, like, do you think that you're a good person? And most people will answer, I don't know, but I don't think that I'm bad. Some people may answer, yes, I think that I am a good person. But the truth is that based on the word of God, God is the only good. We are not good. We sin constantly. The difference between living a godly life and going off is the repentance and what we said on the Bible study, having God as that standard that you want to make proud, that you want to achieve, knowingly that you will never achieve that form in your physical, like in this world, right? But if you always try to seek that, it's like you're going to get closer to that. Like I've always heard this saying that it's actually not a saying. If you're always chasing something that it may seem attainable, you have more chances of achieving it than setting a goal that it will be very easy to attain, right? So if you said to yourself, like, I wanna speak in front of 100 people, you are less likely to achieve that goal than if you said, I wanna speak in front of 100,000 people. Because the amount of work that you need to do for one or the other is way different. So if you're setting your goal for that, you're going to go ahead and be like, okay, I want to speak in front of 100,000 people. I need to work. I need to do what people that are speaking in large crowds are doing. So let me look at that. But if you set your goal to 100 people, it's very little what you need to do to speak to 100 people, you know? So I feel that that's, you know, going back to the interview, the interviewer said to them, like, after they said, like, yes or yes, I think so, he starts asking, like, have you ever lied? And the persons go like, well, yeah, I made some white lies. Have you ever looked at a woman with lust eyes? Yeah, I have. Okay, all those are sins. You are not a good person based on the Bible when you have all those things. But again, we are living in this society that wants to make everything so easy that our standards are getting lower and lower and lower and lower. So now for men, and I know that girls here will love what I have to say, but for men, it's like, oh, as long as I'm not cheating on my wife, I can look at anybody walking around. As long as I'm not physically cheating on my wife, I can flirt with this girl at work. As long as I am not physically doing those things, I'm good. I'm not cheating on my wife because I'm not doing physically, I'm not getting compensated physically, but you are cheating mentally. You are cheating on your heart. You are cheating on your actions. And your wife might never find out, but God will.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of, I've had girls reach out to me and they tell me, like, number one, they're like, can you come out with a dating app? And I'm like, girl, okay, let's slow down. I love it though. But, you know, I get a lot of messages saying like, oh, you know, I'm doing my best to walk in faith, but my partner doesn't believe, or he's a different religion, or he just like laughs, you know, at me when I bring up the Bible or read the Bible or like try to walk in my faith. He's just opposed to it. And, you know, we're having a lot of problems, especially like for like new time moms. I know that it's so hard to balance out the relationship, going from like, you know, just young lovers to like a whole marriage and a child. And now, you know, there's needs that need to be met, not only for the child, but for the man as well. So how do you, like, what advice would you give to a wife that seeks partnership, but their husband or their significant other is not walking in that faith?
So,
and I have something else to say. Like, this was something kind of like that was brought up in my Bible study this morning. And I know that you loved it. You're like, babe, are you listening?
no, I didn't. I
Yes,
know what
did.
you're talking about, but I was not. I
want to give the audience, my girls, some value.
So do you want me to answer and then
Yeah,
you go?
answer.
Okay, cool. So to me, and I speak again based on my own experience. So I don't know the circumstances. I don't know what you guys are going through, but this is my own experience. Is like, I feel like men, we need to start being men. That's number one. I think that we are very confused in what a man of value is. We hear all over the internet that a
And
man of
music.
value is somebody that provides and is strong. Now, thankfully, we're listening that a man of value is somebody that is in good shape. That I agree with that. Like, you need to be, as a man, you can't be weak. You can't. And when I say weak, I specifically talk about physically. You can't be weak physically. Men through history, our bodies are designed to be workhorses or warriors. So that's something that I like about what it's getting out there as the message. But I think at the same time, all that message is getting tinted by the fact that we are putting men's lust needs over everything else. And when I say lust needs, I mean like, you will hear men saying, and I've been part of these environments where it's like, oh, what do you want me to do? I like to have sex. And if my wife is not giving me sex, I'm going to go and find it somewhere else. And I have to tell her that because I'm a man. Okay, cool. You are a man, but at the same time, you have a conscience, you have a mind, and one of the most underrated things that a man should have, that it's getting lost in this world, is self-control, which is self-discipline. If you don't have self-control, if you don't have self-discipline, if you are not willing to teach yourself that no matter what you are telling yourself that you need, that you are in control, then the devil is out there to get you.
But what can women do? Because we're speaking to not men, but mostly women.
So, first of all, like, you can't, like, it's a very tough situation, because the only way that a man would truly change, and I speak for experience, is if they truly love the woman that they are with. That's the only thing that is going to make a man change. So, I'm sorry if I sound too hard, but if your man is not willing to change, is not willing to listen to you, you have spoken to him, you have broken down to him, you have cried to him, and he's still belittling you, he's still laughing at you, he's making one of the worst sins in this world, which is laughing at the Bible. And again, I've done that too. So I'm not talking like oh my God, how can you do that? I've done that too. So if he's doing all those things, the only thing that you have is setting an ultimatum. And if he truly loves you, he will change. Unfortunately, there's no other way to blend a man. There's only two ways to bend a man down. One is through love and the fear of that man losing what he loves the most, and the other one is God. And God will put you, like, maybe you will not be able to change him. Maybe you will not be able to have him turn around and walk on faith with you. But I promise you that sooner or later, God is going to make that for him. And at that moment, he might realize, and hopefully it's not too late for him to embrace God with you, but at that moment, I think that he's going to realize that.
So I'm going to keep mine very short and simple. Number one is, don't only set prayers for yourself, but set prayers for your husband.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he doesn't believe at this moment, just pray for him and be there for him, right? So being there for him is acknowledging his pain and not yelling at him for everything that he's doing wrong or everything that he has done, because that's in the past. Sitting down with him and looking at him in the eyes and telling him that you're willing to make this work, that you love him, and obviously if he loves you back, he will sit down and listen to you. Now, signs of him not loving you is you asking him if he loves you and then just getting a delayed response, or just, like you can see in their eyes if they love you or not. And I've experienced this myself with, so at that point I just had to leave. But if you know that he loves you, but he either has addictions or past traumas, then you sit down and you tell him, look, and maybe this is something that he's never heard before, but hey, I'm willing to accept you for who you are and forgive you for everything that you have done, and I promise to do my best not to throw things in your face from the past, because again, I did that again and again and again. And it's like, maybe the little belief that he does have, he wants to do better. But again, like his flesh just wants to keep sinning. And then imagine his partner just like throwing his sins right back at his face. How do you expect him to change?
Yeah.
How do you expect him to change if all you do is raise your voice, you bicker at him? Be patient with him. And one thing that God has blessed us with is patience and understanding and the trait of nurturing, right? We're emotional for a reason. We have things that men don't, and vice versa, right? They have strength, we have patience and nurturing. We might not have all the understanding because we're emotional, but we need to learn how to turn those emotions into nurturing them. So this is something that I've also had to learn, because again, I was raised like just to bicker and men are gonna cheat on you and they're bad and they're all the same. But it doesn't have to be like that. And women too know how to manipulate, cheat, lie, play victims, right? Look at everything that I have done for you. No, like you walked into this relationship because you decided to be there for them. So that is what you have to stand up and do as a woman. And let me tell you again, it has been very hard.
It is hard.
And it still is, right? A relationship is just a work in progress. It's never going to be perfect at all times, because I feel like once it's perfect at all times, there's no room for growth. And as a relationship, you want to grow, right? As individuals, as spouses, as parents, as people in the business world, as, just a team, right? So again, just ask yourself, and have, as much as you want to blame him and point out everything that he's doing, I want you to sit down and try having a conversation, right? Not heated, right? And just set the intention like, hey, I want to make this work. I'm not here to throw everything at your face and, look at everything that you've put me through. But you know what? I want to be here for you genuinely, and I want to make this work, and I want to show up in a way that, God would want us to show up. And although you may not believe, this is what I would like from you. Let's sit down once a week and just read a verse from the Bible. And if he doesn't agree to that, then you sit down and you be the example for him, right? Yeah. Because that's important. And when he understands and he sees you changing and he sees you like, oh wow, she's not getting heated,
yeah,
or
she's just not saying that to say that, like she's actually doing
at me,
it.
like, and you're the example, and you stay true to your word, that'll influence him to change. So with that being said, I hope that you guys love this podcast. And is there anything that I want to end this podcast with a verse.
Well, you find the verse, or you have it ready?
I have it ready.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I was going to say something about what you were saying, but I'll keep it to me.
So this is Psalms 28, verse 7. The Lord is my strength and shield. I trust him with all my heart. He helps me, and my heart is filled with joy. I burst out in songs of thanksgiving. So
Amen.
don't forget that you don't only have to rely on your strength and your nurturing. You can ask him for those things, and he will give them to you. You just need to trust and have faith. So
Done? Done?
yeah, let's end this right here. Okay. I love you guys. Comment down below on what touched you. We have actually decided to start a new YouTube channel just dedicated to the podcast, because we're going to continue this, and we have just some exciting projects we're going to be working on for 2024. And I want to start differentiating like Lana Lashes and the Lana Hustle, which I'm probably going to change the name. So if you guys have any suggestions, I'm so open to suggestions. So yeah, with that being said, share this podcast, take some notes. We're going to be having another Bible study maybe this week. If not this week, then next week. I think we should have one on this Thursday night at 8 p.m. on my Instagram. So I'll link that down below. And I hope that you have a beautiful night, beautiful day, beautiful morning. And just know that you're not alone.